And yeah, okay, perfect. So let's get started a little bit onto signing specifically. And I think my first question is to understand what you guys were doing before actually implementing OWASP and starting to use the SAMMY tool as well. So can you just walk me through like what the workflows around security, or what were you doing around security before you decided to start implementing OWASP?
Yeah, sounds good. So for us, we're a ISO 27001 and SOC 2 Type 2 compliance shop. And the reason we pivoted eventually towards OWASP SAMM, the framework itself, and Codific SAMMY, is we basically found the current practices insufficient against our customer contractual obligations, against what we're doing. And also, we are a risk management company when it comes to our products. We help manage our customers' risk. So for us, we had to take a deep dive into application security. So typically, we had software development lifecycle. It's enhanced through like security practices, and then we leverage OWASP SAMM top 10. But for us, it's not sufficient enough because when you have a shifting and changing culture, effectively some of these safeguards can easily become a tick box. And for us, how do we make our actual practices what we say we do, right? That's the big part. And also, how do we make it resilient against changes in the business, changes in the industry, and just changes in general? And the second part of that is we also had to make it simple for our developers, right? Because typically, if you have requirements in security, it could appear as overbearing or something that slows them down. So for us, we had to find a creative way or a way to elicit, stronger cybersecurity requirements without suffocating our developers. Because otherwise, it seems like here's another list of requirements you have to do or else. So our intent of moving towards OWASP SAMM is make it more what we call scientific or towards that, and make it easier for a developer that this is not simply in their framework or thought process. This is a gradual uplift towards application security and making sure we have our guardrails. And the reason we went with Codific SAMMY because it was one that was easy to digest, easy for our developers to participate in, and easy for us to just scale up to. And I would recommend using the Codific SAMMY and also the OWASP SAMM framework. OWASP SAMM is vendor agnostic, but I would suggest look into OWASP SAMM. It is really great for eliciting the type of culture positive in application security.
Yeah, and actually kind of piggybacking a little bit on that, I'll ask a quick follow-up question, because something we've seen as well in our own experience, kind of talking to a lot of different practitioners that are using OWASP SAMM and companies that are interested in implementing OWASP SAMM, is that when you're dealing with a framework like ISO 27001 or SOC Type 2, these types of compliance frameworks, things are very much yes or no, right? Like there's not really, it's either you're complying or you're not complying. And kind of my question here is, did the maturity levels in OWASP SAMM help in that sense? Because it kind of gives you a granular way of going from one level to the next, and it's not that much yes or no, it's more where are you now and where do you want to be in the future. Did that kind of help in your specific case at Signing Solutions?
Yeah, so I'll roll it back a bit. Is that ISO 27001 is information security management baseline. So once you have it, customers see your accredited certification, they believe you have all the necessary functions to effectively have information security management. And I'll talk more on the GRC side of this. And afterwards, in the US and globally, depending where you are, there's a SOC 2 Type 2 attestation. So it's an external report system based on a test period. And I would generalize and oversimplify is that it tests your actual controls based on that time period. So if you pair these two together, that's what we would call sufficient assurance for customers that you have something in place, right? But because we are a cloud SaaS, application security is part of those frameworks, but it appears as a thought after. It's almost like a checklist. Like it is sufficient, but it's not going in depth into change management. It's not listing the requirements of secure hygiene, especially in application security. And then that's why we leverage OWASP SAMM, because it goes deeper into those items. Deeper meaning is actually listing more of the controls and how you could actually function. And what's good about it for us is that OWASP is a premier for us in terms of application security out there, but at the same time, it's listing what's needed by the developer. So, we want to make sure developer hours are very expensive, but we want to make sure they're also are doing something that's interesting. So for us, going towards OWASP SAMM is why we chose that. Is that we're using OWASP Top 10. It seems like, okay, this is what's enough, but how could we make it far more secure for our customers, right? So that's where we end up and landed on.
Okay, no, that makes a lot of sense. So specifically, let's say like the quality criteria in SAMM were also very, very interesting because they introduced the controls that you kind of needed to then be able to track the progress towards security over time. That makes a lot of sense.